The Burmese Army's treatment of convicts forced to work as porters on the front line amounts to war crimes, according to a report released on Wednesday. The 70-page report by Human Rights Watch and the Karen Human Rights Group says the abusive treatment of prisoners forced to work as porters in dangerous conflict areas shows the need for a UN inquiry.
Using any civilian in the way that these convict porters were used is a war crime if you're actually exposing them to armed conflict. And the war crimes that we've outlined in the report include atrocity demining, which is forcing these convict prisoners to walk ahead of Burmese Army soldiers in order to trip landmines. They're also used as human shields, which means that they're sent ahead to actually draw fire from ethnic insurgents. So a lot of these offences that we've documented in the report are very, very serious breaches of international humanitarian law and human rights law.
The report reveals that army officials have been forcibly recruiting porters from prisons and labour camps across Burma and taking them to areas where there is an ongoing military offensive. Groups of up to 700 prisoners are taken from the prison and made to carry heavy equipment for the army in deadly frontline situations.
You know what, the Malaysian and so Tom and Taylor, you know, like you Malaysian, go there, go any who appeared. Through Madia Loda, so I let you know what the I don't know, you know, Mahovane, so called Kovio, you know, Madia knew their kind.
In January, inmates from across southern and eastern Burma were sent to Karen State when ongoing fighting between the Burmese Army and Karen troops increased. The prisoners were assigned to individual Burmese Army units and forced to carry equipment and food weighing up to 65 kilograms under inhumane and dangerous conditions. The report is based on the accounts of 58 convict porters who had escaped service. The men had been tortured and subjected to other unlawful treatments. They were overworked, deprived of sleep, given insufficient food and water, and no access to medicine.
Near chain out there. They about to let Wallumia. Buna go at the share jammy bar. Main like the whole element, the name and the winning show by the on air.
If porters are unable to take the load they have to carry due to ill health, exhaustion, or injury, they risk being left to die or killed on the spot.
Through a general shit down the through the Shimarosia boy, General Shedwine, General Sure a bit tired. They lose the trouble.
They do see them as disposable. So many of these convict porters are either killed or disappear in military service. And the army knows full well the kind of treatment that they're going to face when they're sent to the front line. They know that they're going to make the porters walk ahead to trip landmines. They know that many of them will die from either insurgent weapons fire or from malaria or other injuries.
The use of convict porters is not an isolated practice. It is widespread and has continued for many years. The army also routinely forces local villagers to be porters. However, recent conflict has resulted in thousands of refugees fleeing over the border into Thailand to avoid this very fate. The lack of locals to rely on and the increasing troops needed for the sizable and ongoing military offensives in Burma's eastern borders have meant convict porters' numbers have increased. The use of convict porters has been credibly documented since as early as 1992, but there is evidence that the army used porters long before that. Sai Sam is 48. He lost his leg 26 years ago when he stepped on a landmine in southern Shan State after being forced to act as a porter for the army. And the most recent accounts from Convict Porters show that the Burmese Army's abusive tactics have not changed since the elections held in November last year.
I think this report demonstrates very clearly that the Burmese military's counterinsurgency practices haven't improved at all as a result of the election. They're still acting the same way that they've done for decades. And so a commission of inquiry is just as urgently needed as at any time in the past.
The Burmese polls were widely regarded by the international community as sham elections. However, some regional and European nations have urged a change in attitudes to Burma and a rethink of sanctions. But with the new military-dominated government's continued failure to investigate abuses by its forces, and without any positive action, rights groups are insisting that there is no point in just waiting for improvement. The report calls for an immediate push for a UN Commission of Inquiry.
This is a repulsive practice on the part of the Burmese military, and they show no inclination to actually stopping it, so the international community has to find measures to get them to stop it. This is not an isolated or rogue practice. This is not a local Burmese army commander acting in this deplorable fashion. This comes from the top.
Practices such as conflict portering may just be one element of what many hope to be a broader inquiry into Burmese behaviour. But it illustrates clearly that the new Burmese government is not implementing changes expected if it is to move towards genuine democracy.